Hello, welcome to the Inside the Lines podcast. I'm Max.
And I'm Gabe.
This week we're going to recap week 8 of the NFL season. A lot of interesting stuff happened this week, some injuries, some really good games. Colts Titans was great, Cowboys Vikings was great. Good upset this week, the Jets getting a win. You don't see that every day. Some great player performances. We're going to start out recapping some of the games of the week.
All right, to get us started today, we're going to go ahead and talk about the scores for week 8. So on Thursday night, we had the Packers over the Arizona Cardinals 24-21. Then moving to Sunday, we had the Jets 30 over the Bengals 34-31. The Titans over the Colts 34-31 as well. Then we had the Rams over the Texans 38-22. Moving on from that, we had the Steelers over the Browns 15-10, and then the Eagles absolutely kicking the crap out of the Lions 44-6. Then the Niners narrowly over the Bears 33-22, and then the Panthers over the Atlanta Falcons 19-13.
All right. We'll start with the Thursday night game. I mean, what a game. That was very exciting to watch. Close game, obviously. The Packers winning by 3, but the Packers proved they're legit. I know everybody jokes about them winning or losing in the NFC Championship game every year, but I mean they're good. Winning without their top 3 receivers, especially against the 7-0 Cardinals. That's really difficult to do.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Those are 2 playoff teams we saw play on Thursday. I just really wish, from a Cardinals fan's perspective, which I'm not a Cardinals fan, by the way, but just looking from their perspective, I really would have liked to seen Kyler Murray do that. I don't even know how long it was, 99 yards at the end of the game, that 99-yard drive after the defense got a big stop on 4th down to just really be able to take it down the field and punch it in, or at least not turn the ball over because they were in field goal range, maybe force an overtime, which I'm not saying that the interception thrown by Kyler Murray was his fault, but as a quarterback, you really got to try to keep the ball out of harm's way, and he just didn't get it done.
Yeah, AJ Green did retire during that play. It's unfortunate that he had to pull Vontae Davis, but the Cardinals can afford to lose this game. It doesn't really matter that much for them because, they're 7-0. They're probably making the playoffs. I understand they're in a very difficult division, but I don't think the Rams will really win that division. They'll probably be a wild card. But the Packers showed grit. Aaron Rodgers showed grit. We got a meme out of it too. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But, the Packers are good.
Yeah, I think this win really showed a lot about the Packers, which there was obviously question marks from them, like getting the crap kicked out of them week 1 versus the Saints, which I don't know why, but the Saints just kind of go off in the regular season anyways. But I really think that this is not a Green Bay team like it has been in the past, because I feel like Rodgers has kind of had to sling the ball around. But on Thursday night, we saw a heavy dose of the run game with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And yeah, this Packers team looks scary if you ask me.
Yeah, they're pretty good. You could definitely argue that they're the team to beat in the NFC right now.
Yeah, for sure. To move on, we will touch on the Bengals and the Jets later, and now we're going to get the rest of the scores.
This game, it's always funny when somebody gets beat by the Jets, but on a serious note, the Bengals, they're still good. They're 5-3. Letdown games happen all the time. Obviously, it's never okay, but the Bengals don't have to win this year. There's not a lot of experience on that roster. They're relatively young. Jamar Chase, Burrow, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. They have some really good pieces, and they don't necessarily have to win this year.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. We'll kind of dive a little bit more deep into that after a while, but I think we get the rest of the scores.
All right. Next score, Titans 34, Colts 31. We have the Titans and the Colts. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
I mean, not really. I watched the first half and then the very last half of overtime. In all honesty, Carson Wentz has had a pretty decent year. I think going into that game, I mean, you would know more than I would, but what was he? 11 touchdowns and 1 interception?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, but he just had that one very ugly pick in the third quarter, which I get he's trying to avoid a safety, but you just can't do that. And then they were still able to get it to overtime. And then he just throws that pick into triple coverage, trying to force it to Michael Pittman. And that was the nail in the coffin for him.
Yeah, absolutely. This game was particularly tough for me, being a Colts fan. I'm not going to get too much into it because I might get emotional. But yeah, I don't really blame Carson Wentz. I think Frank Reich needs to do a better job of getting the ball to Jonathan Taylor. In my mind, Jonathan Taylor is a top 5 back in the NFL.
I would
don't see
have to
why.
agree.
I
Yeah.
don't see why he doesn't touch the ball more. Yeah, that's really all I got to say for that one. For the next one, Rams Texans. I don't have a lot of takeaways from this one. It's pretty much what I thought would happen.
No, me neither. I mean, I guess if you're the Rams defense, they wouldn't have liked Houston to put up 22, but I mean, a win is a win. Maybe they look at this game and say they need Von Miller, so they go pick him up. Who knows? But to move on to the next one, we had the Steelers over the Browns. This game, I didn't watch it myself, but the highlights were tough to watch, so I can only imagine the whole game.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also not going to claim to have watched this game, but I'm not sure how the Steelers are 4-3.
Yeah, it kind of is crazy to me. This is really two teams that in the AFC North that were like, man, they really, I felt like should have been better this year, but we're seeing pretty mediocre years out of both of them. I mean, we both know Big Ben should retire, probably should have retired last year, is definitely going to retire after this year. But yeah, this game was just ugly, ugly, ugly.
Man, I hope he retires. He needs to.
Yep.
Eagles, Lions. Um, I I think I called last week. I thought this would be the Lions' first win of the year. It was not.
Yeah, I think that you definitely weren't alone on that take. I saw in multiple different places where people thought the Lions were going to get the best of the Eagles, and the Eagles must have felt disrespected because they ran all over the Lions.
Yeah, I remember I was watching the Colts game and I was watching like at the bottom of the TV, where they scroll the stats from the other games across the screen. And I saw Jalen Hurts and I was not that impressed. And I saw like every other running back had 2 rushing touchdowns on that team. And
Besides Kenneth Gainwell, and he just happened to be my flex player on fantasy. And just, I think he got like 2.7 points, full PPR. And it was just absolutely pathetic. But yeah, actually, one more point is that the Eagles are not a terrible team yet. I think the real emphasis on that yet.
yeah, I would agree. I think I wouldn't count on them making the playoffs this year.
No, definitely not. I mean, I guess you never know in the NFC East because,
yeah, you do. Well, the Cowboys are kind of the juggernaut in that division. But
yep, definitely.
Yeah. Niners, Bears. I think the Niners aren't awful. They're not.
No, they're really not.
Obviously they got beat by the Colts last week, but that was an ugly game. It's hard to take much away from that game. I mean, it was a bomb cyclone.
Torrential downpour for sure.
Yeah, that was a tough one to play through. I mean, I saw Justin Fields had a nice play. Maybe his future is looking up. I hope so for the
He
Bears
did.
fans.
I feel like this was a very important game for Justin Fields because he, coming off that week against the Buccaneers, he struggled big time. I mean, so did the whole team. But even if Justin Fields does okay this year, I still think it's Matt Nagy's time is up in Chicago.
Unless they go undefeated the rest of the season, I don't see Matt Nagy. I see Justin Fields learning a new offense next year.
Yeah, we see time and time again as well. When he gives up the play calling, the very next week they do better, and then he takes it back and they do worse, and it's just this cycle. And it's, I don't know.
I think Frank Reich maybe could give up the play calling like Maggie or Nagy, but
Yeah,
we might have
before
judged, I
we
guess.
move on from this, I would like to discuss maybe Kyle Shanahan, because I think we were all kind of disappointed with how the Niners are performing this year. I mean, last year they were plagued with injuries, so it's like, oh, they're injured. They are a really good team. They just don't got their guys. You know what I mean? So, but
Yeah,
this year they're, I mean, injured as well, but kind of a do or die situation, and they're just barely scraping by, it seems like.
yeah, obviously when you're injured, it's very tough, especially to like judge a coach. But at the end of the day, it's a results based business, and right now, Kyle Shanahan's not getting results. Obviously, everybody thought he was a great coach when they went to the Super Bowl, and they
Yep.
went to the Super Bowl. That's a great result. But since then, he hasn't done much. I would assume Trey Lance. I would guess that Trey Lance starts at some point this season, especially if the 49ers continue to go the way they're going.
Yep. I would have to agree. I mean, we all know that Kyle Shanahan is a great offensive mind, offensive coordinator. I mean, we've seen time and time again that he was able to get numbers out of offenses historically that weren't great. But I think we really have to question how good he is as a head coach, because a coordinator versus head coach is completely different animal.
Absolutely. I mean, you have the clock to deal with, and you're responsible for the whole team as a head coach. I know you have a defensive coordinator, and if you're not a defensive mind, you're not necessarily responsible for the defense as much, but it's still your defense and it's still your team, and you have to make the big decisions.
Yeah, of course. And also, I feel like people also say that the injuries aren't their fault, which if you do what the 49ers have and kind of build your team around players that have injury issues, then this is just what you're going to have.
Yeah, I mean,
Which
also,
what I'm saying is that there comes a point in time where you can't just use injuries as an excuse for not playing well.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to win eventually.
Yep. All right, moving on from that game, we had Carolina and the Falcons. Carolina getting a much needed win. Not, I mean, kind of like the Steelers Browns game, not a pretty game by any means, but a win is a win.
Yeah. Another game I'm not going to claim to have watched, but the Falcons at 3-4. That division is not horrible. It's not that bad. We got 6-2, 5-2, 4-4, and 3-4. Not a lot of divisions can say that every team has more than 3 wins, or 3 at least. The Panthers, they struggled. I think it's fair to say without Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, 19 points isn't a lot of points. I would say the Falcons season is probably going to be over sooner rather than later. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have for that game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much all you can take away from it, to be honest.
Yep. Dolphins and Bills.
I
The
think that
Bills.
game might be the same way. You can't really take away a whole lot from that. The Bills are the better team, and they took care of the worst team, the Dolphins.
Yep. The Dolphins. I guess we'll see. Well, at the time of recording this podcast, shortly after the trade deadline, the Dolphins did not make a move for Deshaun Watson, pending some legal investigations that we're not going to get into. But
yeah, in my opinion, they shouldn't have made a move anyways, but we'll touch on that a little later.
Yep. Absolutely. Patriots Chargers. The Patriots getting a win here, improving to 4-4, leaving the Chargers at 4-3. This was a game I expected the Chargers to win. I know historically the Patriots do well against the Chargers. I don't know how much that matters, but it seemed to have mattered here. And the Patriots winning by 3. I know Herbert threw two interceptions because he was on my fantasy team, and I was very disappointed in him. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for that game.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what you said, Max. Last year, we just saw the complete dismantlement of the Los Angeles Chargers at Foxborough against the Patriots. And this year it was a little different, close game, but we saw a late game interception from Justin Herbert that kind of put him away, so to speak. But no, this Bill Belichick defense, he can get it done with any guys he's got out there. They just got to buy into his system.
Absolutely. I think the Chargers will be fine personally.
I agree.
But they definitely have work to do. They're not, I don't think, a lot of people had them as their sleeper team. And then I think slowly people started to overrate them. I don't think they're one of the best teams in the AFC. I think they'll make the playoffs though. Herbert's still good, but he's still learning.
Yeah, I would agree. They definitely have a lot to go, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Jaguars Seahawks. This is a game the Seahawks should win, I think.
Yeah.
Winning by 24 sounds about right. The Jaguars are awful.
Yeah, the Jaguars, not great. Coaching, not great. Really nothing about that team is great. I think Trevor Lawrence shows promise. We all know he's got the arm talent. We saw it for when he was in high school and his college days, but I just think he has to get the right coaching staff behind him to really show what he's got.
Yeah, he's not going to be able to carry this team.
No, he's
at
not
least
to that point.
Not yet. The Seahawks had to win this game, or
I would
their
agree.
season was essentially doomed. I saw Russell Wilson got the pin out of his finger. I don't know when he comes back. Probably, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks, maybe this week. I don't know. But they need him back.
Yeah, they definitely do. This kind of reminds me of the situation that the Cowboys had last year. Quarterback goes down. The team's kind of in shambles, except this year Russell Wilson will come back. We all know Dak was out for the season last year, but the defense for the Seahawks definitely leaving more to be desired. And then the defense last year for the Cowboys, well, we both know how bad they were. Moving on, Denver over Washington, 17-10. I feel like this Washington team, their defense was hyped up at the beginning of the year. Everyone praised them for building that side of the ball, and then they've just kind of disappointed, if you ask me.
Yeah, I made a mistake of drafting a defense in fantasy football. It happened to be the Washington football team. The Broncos
you definitely weren't the only one.
Yeah. The Broncos at 4-4, they're in a position to make some noise. I don't know a ton about the team, honestly. I know they traded Von Miller. They got two running backs. They got Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, the Wisconsin back, and 4-4. They're in a spot to push for a wild card. I know there's that division's pretty competitive because you never know. Everybody expects the Chiefs to eventually get it together. Personally, I've given up hope, but the Raiders and the Chargers are both good teams. This division might come down to a Week 17 matchup.
It really could. This was definitely I don't want to say deserved, but much needed win for the Broncos because after starting 3-0 and then sort of kind of collapse, especially in that, I don't even remember what week it was, but when they had lost to the Browns, to pretty much the Browns practice squad, that was that was tough. But moving on from that,
Buccaneers Saints, 27-36. The Saints pull that victory. Jameis Winston tearing his ACL. I was watching it live. It looked pretty gruesome. I called it as soon as it happened, ACL. It's really unfortunate. He was having a good season, not near as many turnovers as what famous Jameis is used to. The Buccaneers, this division's really close, actually. 6-2 and 5-2. Obviously, the Saints have had their bye week, but they should get Michael Thomas back soon. I don't know who's going to play quarterback for him. I heard Phillip Rivers rumbles. He said he'd be open maybe if they contacted him, but he said they had not yet. I think Phillip Rivers is a good fit for that offense. As a Colts fan watching him next year, he's going to make you want to scratch your eyes out about once a game, and he can't move, but he's accurate. He's a good leader. He's fiery. He's one of those players you don't know how awesome he is until he plays for your team. Just the personality. The Buccaneers, they'll be all right. I think we all know that.
Yeah, this was a game where we saw Brady throw that interception. I mean, we all know the shot of him like sitting on the bench with his head down. It's like, oh, the game's over when he's done, when he's
Yeah,
like got
that's
this kind of emotions about him. And then he goes out and throws the interception, which this is definitely not the end of the year for the Buccaneers. We all know, like what Max said, that they're a great team, good defense, and they're only getting healthier. The offense firing on all cylinders. Yep. We'll
yeah.
definitely be seeing them in January.
Yep. A lot of these teams, there's been several teams I think are playoff teams that have lost so far this week, and that's okay. Nobody's going 8 or 17-0. It just doesn't happen. Everybody loses. And sometimes there's just not a ton to take away from it.
Yep, that's how it is in the NFL. Anybody can beat anybody.
Yep, that talent margin's so close. I remember I forget his name, but in the NBA, he told a fan, I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me. And I think that applies in the NFL that all these guys are so close in talent and
Yep,
anybody can win any given week.
for sure. And then to wrap it up, yesterday we had the Kansas City Chiefs over the New York Giants, 20-17.
Yeah, the Chiefs aren't a good football team, in my opinion.
I would agree, definitely.
They have Mahomes. Mahomes isn't bad. I know a lot of people have said Mahomes, this is not his fault. That team is not a good football team.
No, not at all. I mean, that defense, we all know is just atrocious, giving up deep plays like every other play, it seems like. And that Giants team, I don't know what is going on in New York with both the Giants and the Jets, but they just cannot seem to figure it out, either one of them.
There's definitely something in the water over there.
I would agree.
About the Chiefs, they're 4-4. They're not as bad as some people I think they are, like at record wise. I think they're not a good football team, but they're 4-4, so they could make something of the season. I just don't think they will.
Yeah.
Oh,
Do you
and
think this could be a Chiefs team that does not make the playoffs?
I would have to look at their schedule.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be close for them. They're definitely going to be a wild card team, in my opinion, which, I mean, you never know with the talent they got. I mean, Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, a multitude of receivers. I
Well,
mean,
could I read you the schedule?
yeah, go for it.
Okay, they have next week. They have the Packers. Okay, so that's probably a loss.
Tough game for sure. Yep.
Raiders, tough game. Cowboys, tough game. Broncos, they're not bad. The Raiders, they're again not bad. The Chargers are good. The Steelers somehow are 4-4. The Bengals aren't bad, and the Broncos again aren't bad. They don't play a bad team the rest of the season.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, here in the rest of their season, it's going to be a tough one for them. I mean, we both know Mahomes can do it and that offense can get it done, but that defense just leaves a lot to be desired.
It's an uphill climb for sure. And Sorensen might be one of the worst football players I've ever seen.
Yeah. Oh, I
He's
love
bad.
the shots of him like just getting absolutely toasted by like a tight end or something. It's like this tight end runs like a 4.8 on a good day, and he's just getting cooked.
Yeah. We skipped over Cowboys Vikings.
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we?
Yep. So Cowboys beat the Vikings 20-16.
At the Vikings, I might add.
At the Vikings. Yeah. I bet you would love to add that.
I would.
Since you are the Cowboys fan here, I'll let you go first and hype them up, and then I'll tear them down.
Well, I mean, this is a Cowboys team that I don't know. I'm pretty bullish on him. I don't know if he'll be able to tear him down, Max. But anyways, this was a game that I think says a lot about the Cowboys. They've had some. I mean, we all know they played that first game of the season against the Buccaneers really close, came down to the wire. You could argue that if Greg the Leg makes some kicks, they win that game, but I digress. Now, this Cowboys defense, the improvement from last year to this year is like they just look like a completely different unit, which that is partially because they are.
You don't see units improve like that from year to year every year. You
Yeah.
never see it. They are good.
No, they definitely are good. I mean, you just see the tenacity of them. Like they are to the ball, which I know every NFL defense should, but I feel like Dallas just looks faster.
I would agree. They look really good.
Yeah.
I know I said I was going to tear them down. I am a self-diagnosed Cowboys hater, but this Cowboys team is really good. They're in my opinion, they're one of the four best teams in football right now. I don't know how you could think otherwise, honestly.
Yeah.
They look really good. Personally, I'm very happy that Amari Cooper had 10 receptions and 13 targets. It won me my week in fantasy, and he owed me one.
Yeah, you love to see it.
Yeah, you really do. Yeah, Cowboys are good. They got options everywhere. Zeke's running hard. Pollard's good.
Yeah, I would
Dak's
say
good. The line's playing well.
that might be the best 1-2 punch in the league. Well, I guess you do have the Browns with Hunt and Chubb, but
I think the Colts with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines are probably up there too.
yep. No, I think like what I said, this says a lot about the team because they find a way to win in prime time without their best player in Dak Prescott. I mean, we saw him warming up on the field before, so he is somewhat healthy. They're just valuing his long-term health, which I think is a good idea. Obviously, I mean, if they lose this game, it doesn't necessarily hurt them, but it doesn't help them either.
Yeah.
And
the NFC East is bad.
No, the NFC East is very bad.
The Cowboys can afford to lose a couple games. It won't matter. I bet if they finish, this would be a disappointment. If they finish 10-7, they're winning the division.
Yeah, and I would say that with 100% confidence.
Yeah, I don't see the Eagles, Giants, or the football team winning 8 games.
Yeah, and what it comes down to is that good teams find ways to win football games like that without their best player, and that's what the Cowboys did. Moving to the other side of the ball, though, I really felt like the Vikings were disappointing.
Yeah, Kirk, are you talking about offense or defense?
I mean, defense, they held them to 20 points. Granted, it was a backup quarterback, but I'm kind of looking more on the offense side. Like, they look good on paper. One of the best running backs in the league with Dalvin Cook. And then you got maybe the best, for sure, one of the best, like, wide receiver duo in Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. And, I mean, a quarterback in Kirk Cousins, which we'll get into that a little bit, but he might be the problem on that team.
Since the first 3 weeks, the Kirk Cousins MVP talk it's came to a halt.
It has fizzled out and died a miserable death.
Yeah, I think at a certain point in Minnesota, they're going to have to start talking about whether they want to move forward with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think that was a signing in, heck, when did he move there? 2018, 2017, something like that. But they signed him, in my opinion, out of fear that they were going to have to draft a quarterback. And they knew that they had a somewhat safe floor with Kirk Cousins, which he's kind of coasted them to mediocrity every year. But
yep. It's a tough place to be where the Vikings are. They're not good enough to win, and they're not bad enough to lose.
Yep. And that results in
it's really tough.
A 9-8 season, 8-9. I mean, who knows at this point?
The occasional wild card appearance.
Yep.
That wraps up the games of the week. 2 games we're going to get into more is the Cowboys Vikings and the Colts Titans. We just discussed the Cowboys Vikings, but
kind of circle back around to the Colts Vikings.
Colts Titans?
Or Colts Titans, my bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main points I, as a Colts fan, want to hit is why do the Colts not use Jonathan Taylor? He has 16 carries. He has 26 carries in the 2 games combined against the Titans. So he had 10 in one game and 16 in one game. That is unacceptable. Jonathan Taylor is arguably the second best running back in the league. He's definitely top 5. And they just refuse to use him, and I don't understand it. Marlon Mack comes in the game sometimes. Marlon Mack was in on a third quarter, 3rd and 2. Why?
Yeah, that does not make a whole lot of sense to me. I guess there could be something going on. Taylor needs a break, but no, I agree. In my opinion, he should be getting the ball 25 times a game, whether that's through the air or on the ground. He's their best player, in my opinion, and to win football games, you got to get your best player the ball, and they just haven't done that very well.
Absolutely. Moving on, are the Titans AFC favorites?
That's a tough one. I mean, maybe a couple days ago I would have told you yes, but with that injury to Derrick Henry, I mean,
I almost forgot about that.
it'll be very tough. We'll
But
really
he's only
see.
6 to 10 weeks. If they can make the playoffs, they get him back.
Yep. But if we can
Um,
see Ryan Tannehill maybe step up a little bit, AJ Brown, got him on fantasy. Really like to see a little bit more work from him. I mean, he's obviously had a great 2 weeks when he's been healthy, but hopefully that production only goes up.
Yeah. I don't want to make this all about fantasy for Derrick Henry because it really hurts the team. But me being a Derrick Henry fantasy owner, I would appreciate thoughts and prayers to my fantasy season.
Yeah, I think pretty much anybody that spent that kind of draft pick on Derrick Henry, their team is in shambles. They're crying in a corner. It's not good.
Yeah. Damian Harris has been promoted to my RB1.
Yeah, which I would say, I would argue that Damian Harris is a viable RB2 and like a 10, 12, maybe 8 man. But anyways, he's definitely not RB1.
Especially when you look at my RB2 as Gaskin. So
Yep.
it's tough. Do the Colts need to draft a receiver?
One point that I would like to bring up is that we made this outline for the podcast before the Colts were going to trade for Devontae Parker. So I think that kind of point fizzles out.
That trade did not go through.
Oh,
that was a fake source on Twitter.
Oh my God. I've been bamboozled.
Yeah. Forget about me ever saying that.
Okay. Anyway, so the point still stands. In my opinion, they should draft a receiver. Michael Pittman has really stood out, and I feel like any Colts fan should be very pleased with how he's been playing. But I really think that the other receivers have left a little bit more to be desired. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, Paris Campbell getting hurt. He's going to be out for a significant amount of the year. Is tough. But T.Y. Hilton, how do I word this kindly? He
retire.
Sucks. Yeah, please retire. He gets hurt about every game. Of course, I will say this game, his concussion, Wentz threw him a hospital pass. But
yeah, you never like to see those kind of passes, especially to T.Y. Hilton, which how old even is he? Like 35?
No, he's like 31 or 32. But
well, still, that's
and he doesn't even run after the catch anymore. He just slides. It aggravates me to no end.
Yeah.
Also, they're paying him like $13 million.
Yeah, you really don't like to see that, but I guess looking at it from your perspective as a Colts fan, you kind of, I guess for nostalgia reasons, he was a good receiver for many years, maybe one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. But it kind of circling back around to our point, I personally think that they should draft a wide receiver. Maybe Chris Olave coming out of Ohio State. I mean, he is just a smooth player. He kind of reminds me of like prime T.Y. Hilton, so they could use him in the same way.
Let's go back a little bit here on the draft. The Colts do not have their first round pick.
Yeah, that is true.
And there are other holes on that team that are bigger than receiver, in my opinion. Corner, defensive end, safety depth could all use significant improvement. Rock Ya-Sin is not bad. He's improved from last year, but Xavier Rhodes is another guy who needs to retire. I saw a catch AJ Brown had 57-yard touchdown. He caught it on a drag across the middle. And Xavier Rhodes made one of the worst tackle attempts I've ever seen.
Yeah, I would have to agree on that. I haven't watched just a whole lot of Colts games, but definitely hearing from you, they do need some key pieces on defense.
Yeah. AJ Brown, if you have him in fantasy, you're probably a very happy person right now. He's about to get probably 10 targets a game, I would guess.
Easy.
Especially with Julio being out, 10 to 15 targets a game probably. He's a stud. He's really good.
He is very good. And he kind of got some disrespect towards the beginning of the season because He was in and out of the lineup, injuries, which I mean, you could argue that you can't control that. But anyways, he's been healthy the past 2 weeks and has been very productive for them.
Yeah, no doubt he's a really good player. We already hit on Cowboys Vikings, so there's really not much we can hit on.
I guess we go ahead and move on to some notable
Oh,
player performances.
Jets Bengals actually.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So
Yep. Well,
did the Bengals lose or did the Jets just win? In my opinion, Mike White is up there probably with Brady in the all-time rankings right now, especially in New York. If you ask some random guy walking about New York who the greatest quarterback ever is, he's going to say Mike White.
yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. Which, to go back to the question, I really think the Jets just won that game, if you ask me.
I do too. The Bengals put up points, man, and they were up.
Yep. So what does this, I mean, we were kind of talking about Mike White. What does this say about Zach Wilson, do you think?
I'm not going to say he's a worse quarterback than Mike White. I'm not ready to say that. Sometimes not having any tape on you makes it easier to win.
Yeah. I mean, you see time and time again that the backup comes in and, I mean, sometimes throws a touchdown. For example, the Seahawks backup, Geno Smith, came in, threw a touchdown when Russell Wilson got hurt. And like you said, they just don't have tape on them.
And if you don't know who Geno Smith is, there's a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
So where do the Bengals go from here in a very competitive AFC North where every team is good, or at least average? The Bengals are in a weird spot. They're going to be better next year, and they're going to be better the year after that. If they can make a wild card, get some experience, or maybe they even win the division, I don't know. But get some experience in the playoffs and be ready for a Super Bowl run in the next 3 years. I mean, Joe Burrow is good. He's really good. And Jamar Chase is really good. Some of these young players are going to carry them to the future, and it's not about this year for them.
Yep. I would agree. I think this year's a lot about just getting those young guys valuable experience. And I mean, they're winning, and that's really all you can ask for.
Yep. How bad are the Jets? Does this win change anything?
That's a tough question, honestly, because I mean, you like to see a bad team like the Jets win against a good team like the Bengals, which they came out and they played good football. I mean, you had a career day out of Michael Carter. I'm not for sure his exact stat line, but I do know that he put up 31 fantasy points on somebody's bench, so that must have been frustrating.
Yeah, no doubt.
But to kind of answer that question, the Jets are still bad. We all know this. Zach Wilson is throwing the ball to the other team.
Yeah,
And
if the Jets really want to ruin my month, they can beat the Colts on Thursday Night Football this week. It wouldn't surprise me.
yeah, to answer the second part, does this win change anything? In my personal opinion, no, it does not. I mean, you see some years these bad teams have good games. Like we talked about earlier, it's the NFL. Everybody is good to a certain extent, but in the grand scheme of things, the Jets are still bad.
Yeah. The only thing this win might change is the draft position.
Yep.
Moving on to some notable player performances. AJ Brown, 11 targets, 10 catches, 155 yards, and 1 touchdown. I would like to point out this is on a horrible, horrible Colts secondary. They're really bad. Coming from a Colts fan, they're terrible. But he's a stud. He really is.
Yeah, AJ Brown he's the real deal. I mean, it's impressive no matter what kind of secondary you're facing, catching 10 of your 11 targets and that touchdown coming from that, 59-yard catch and run on that drag across the middle of the field. It's overall solid week for him. Moving on, we had Matt Stafford with 21 completions on 32 passes with 305 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Just a solid week out of him. Again, he did play the Texans, and, well, the Texans are the Texans, but when you complete that many passes, throw for that many yards, score 3 touchdowns, always impressive against an NFL team.
Yep. Let me ask you a question. If The season ended today. Who's the MVP?
Ooh,
Is it Matt Stafford?
you know, it might be. A
Yeah, I
couple
mean,
weeks ago, I might have told you Lamar Jackson, but they had that ugly, ugly loss against the Bengals, and
yeah, they got blown out.
that kind of changed that for me. But no, I think Matt Stafford might be the MVP if the season ended
Yeah,
right now.
he's playing the best football of his career. I think that's for sure.
Yep, which we knew coming into the year that it was going to
He had a
be a
chance
do or
to.
die for Matt Stafford.
Yep. One thing I would like to point out about the Rams. If the Rams don't win a Super Bowl in the next 3 years, I'm guessing everyone gets fired because they are putting all their eggs in this basket.
Yeah,
They traded for Von Miller, Matt Stafford. I guess what happened is when they drafted Jared Goff and he wasn't very good, they decided they're never going to draft again.
yeah, and they
So
just trade for everybody.
I'm not sure where they get the salary cap. I don't. I have no idea.
No,
But
whoever is managing that on that team should be paid more.
yeah, I would agree. Moving on to Najee Harris, 26 carries, 91 rushing, 3 catches for 29 yards and 1 touchdown. Really solid week from him. The
Yep.
fantasy owners are happy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd say the fantasy owners are happy pretty much from week 2. I mean, we know that he had a sort of a down week in week 1, but then he's been nothing but great from then. And this
Yeah,
also shows how important he is to that offense because with them only putting up 15 points, he's still able to put up those kinds of numbers. And I'd
he was
hate to see his
certain.
stat line when they score about 30 something points.
Oh yeah, he was certainly a great buy low candidate after that first week. There's some very happy people out there right now because of that.
Yes, definitely. So then
Um,
moving on, we have Michael Pittman with 10 receptions, 86 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. I'll let the Colts fan take this one.
I would like to point out that I am a fantasy owner of him in both of my 2 fantasy football leagues I'm in. When everyone else was a hater, I believed in him, and I am reaping the benefits of it. He's playing great football. 10 receptions for 86 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he had 15 targets, but he had Carson Wentz throwing the ball, so they weren't all on target. Um, 86 receiving. He drew probably 50 to 100 more in pass interference calls. That doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but it happened in the game and it changed it. At one point, he made a great, he high pointed a ball great down the field that Carson Wentz just threw it and prayed.
Kind of
Um,
like an Eli Manning helmet
yeah,
catch caliber type play.
yeah, it was awesome. 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, playing really good football. He's a star in the making right now.
I agree. No, he's definitely showing great promise. I mean, we Max and I actually went up to the Colts training camp this summer and watched him play a little bit, and he just has this kind of it factor about him. Like he just carried himself differently than the rest of the players on the Colts,
Yep,
and
he
he's
started
just
a fight.
yeah, he did. But
I being a Colts fan, I look at a lot of stuff that their writers write, and they're always writing about like how Michael Pittman starts fights almost every day, just blocking these corners and safeties past the whistle. There's no USC pretty boy in Michael Pittman.
no, not at all. He's definitely not a juju.
No, not quite. So the unfortunate thing in the NFL is injuries. There's injuries every year in the NFL to a whole bunch of really good players. However, all the players aren't always as good as Derrick Henry, and that's where we're going to start this week with injuries.
Yep, Derrick Henry out 6 to 10 weeks with a foot injury. I mean, we've kind of touched on that a little bit, how that affects the Titans. But moving on from that, Chris Carson could be out for the year. I mean, the Seahawks aren't really talking a whole lot about his status, so could come back, could not. I mean, I watched maybe a couple Seahawks games this year, and Alex Collins does not look good. So they are in need of Chris Carson.
Should have traded for Marlon Mack.
Yeah, something like that.
Christian McCaffrey still out with a hamstring injury from week 3. Looking to make his appearance soon, I think. Next couple weeks, hopefully. Will his career be defined by injuries?
That's a tough question. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, we both know he went to Stanford. He's a good guy, good face for the league. But when it comes down to it, he just gets injured. And he's a great talent. But I certainly hope that his career will not be defined by injuries, but it might be looking that way.
Yeah, I always laugh when I see people try to rank him as a running back. Him and Saquon are so tough to rank because they're great players. Nobody's arguing that they're not great players when on the field. When they're on the field, but when they're not on the field, I know some people say availability is the best ability, and for these guys, you could definitely make that argument. Speaking of that, Saquon Barkley still has not practiced since his ankle injury in Week 5 against the Cowboys. Are the Giants not telling us the entire situation with his injury? Um, I could see it. The Giants want to keep people in the stands. In a rough season, they're 2-6, I believe. Um, that ankle injury, I mean, I know Saquon, a lot of people say he's injury prone. That looked like a fluke injury. Somebody stepped under his foot. That
It
just
really
isn't going
did.
to
It was a
happen.
dead ball injury. I mean, the play was
Yeah.
20
It
yards down the
really,
field.
really sucks for Saquon. I really feel bad for him. Yeah,
Yeah.
another guy seems like a great guy. But yeah, I mean that's really tough. He was starting to make his mark. He
Yeah.
was
I
playing
mean, we
really,
saw
really good football.
the two games that he was healthy, put up pretty big numbers. Kind of moving on from that, Russell Wilson just recently had the pin removed from his finger, according to the Seattle Seahawks website and Pete Carroll. The Seahawks need him. I would definitely agree with that.
Oh, they need him so bad. He is the heart and soul of that football team.
Yep.
They're not going anywhere without him. Geno Smith and Jacob Eason are not carrying them very far.
No, not at all. To kind of wrap up our little injury report here, David Montgomery and Clyde Edwards-Helaire are still out. Neither are certain when they will return.
You could argue how much the Chiefs really need Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, I don't know how much he really does for them at this point in the year.
You remember when they took him over Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah. Still scratching my head about that one. I mean, in my opinion, Jonathan Taylor was the better player out of college. Clyde Edwards-Helaire came from that 2019 LSU team, which was stacked, but
yeah, that was a great team.
I don't understand how Jonathan Taylor goes under Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, I mean, it made him look good because in Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor wasn't necessarily always running behind the best offensive line, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire was. You can ask, ask Chase Hubert. That offensive line was really good.
Yeah, definitely big.
Yeah, definitely. David Montgomery is somebody the Bears need. The name's escaping me of their quarterback.
Justin Fields?
Yeah. He needs him to take some of the weight off of him.
Definitely. I mean, David Montgomery, not like a stellar player in terms of the rest of the running backs in the league, but he's up there for sure. Better half of the league, in my opinion. But no, he's a cornerstone of that Bears offense at this point in time, and they're really missing him.
Yeah, he's really good. So we're going to move on to some hot takes. These aren't necessarily takes we believe in, but these are takes we're going to talk about. These are takes we've heard, definitely. Starting off, the Browns should pay Baker Mayfield.
I'll let you start with this one, Max.
The Browns should not pay Baker Mayfield.
Really?
I don't think so.
It really depends on how much, because if he comes out and he wants like a Dak Prescott type deal, which he's not Dak Prescott, I mean, some would argue he's not even top half the quarterbacks in the league.
I would say he's there. He's at half.
Yeah. So painfully average, Kirk Cousins type level.
Yes, and you see what's happening with the Vikings right now.
Glued to mediocrity.
Yep, I wouldn't do it. I would not resign him for any amount of money. I would let him walk.
Really? So, in my opinion,
maybe like a 1-year prove it deal where you can draft another guy.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't be a bad decision at all. But
I doubt Baker would take it.
I think if they come to some sort of agreement that is less than $25 million a year, like maybe a Tom Brady type of deal. Like when he was in New England, I mean, he could have got paid more, but decided to take a little bit of a salary cut so they could build a team around him, which Baker Mayfield, I mean, we all see his competitiveness. He wants to win, so I could see that happening.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
I think any
absolutely.
deal under $25 million a year for the Browns is a win, and I say they sign him. That's my opinion.
I wouldn't go high on the years personally, but
Yep.
and make sure there's an out. Moving on, Carson Wentz is not the solution in Indiana. Personally, I think it's too hard. I think it's too early to tell.
Yeah. I mean, if you would have asked me this before Sunday's game against the Titans, I would have told you that you were dead wrong. But Carson Wentz is just going to have some boneheaded plays. And in my opinion, he's just broken from what happened at the Eagles. And yeah, I don't know if he'll be the same player that he was that one year where he was in the conversation for the MVP, but then got hurt before the playoffs. They went on to win the Super Bowl. But
Yep.
yeah, I just don't know about Carson Wentz yet.
All right.
Moving
Kyle
on.
Shanahan. Yep.
Yeah, we kind of touched on this a little bit. Kyle Shanahan is not a good coach, great offensive mind and offensive coordinator, but just not a great leader. We kind of touched on that. We'll swiftly move on.
Yep.
It is way too early for the Dolphins to move on from Tua. They should not trade for Deshaun Watson.
We kind of touched on this already, but we didn't really touch on Tua. I don't think Tua is the problem. I really don't. I thought a lot of people thought their head coach was really good in his first couple of years. I think we're kind of seeing he's pretty average. That roster is not great by any means.
No, they're not, which is really disappointing because that defense has really struggled this year, and they had an above average year last year, and it just hasn't been great. Like you said, Tua is not the problem for say, but he's not the solution either. He kind of reminds me of, like, as far as play style goes and like build, of like a Drew Brees. Like,
yeah, but he's not Drew Brees.
No, he's not Drew Brees, which is kind of what I'm circling around to, is that Drew Brees is the only guy with his type of build and skill set to succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, I've never really thought about this, but what would you think if I said he could be about as good as Baker Mayfield is?
I would say you're not entirely dumb. I don't know if he has the fire that Baker does, which I'm not in the Dolphins locker room, so I don't really know. But
yeah.
I think it's too early to move on from Tua. With drafting a quarterback, I'm kind of a big supporter of the 3-year kind of evaluation of him. You give them 3 years, and if they haven't proved it, get rid of them.
Yeah, but at a certain point, you got to show something. And so far, I mean, he's had some good plays for sure, but
some ugly interceptions as well.
He's had some ugly interceptions, and he hasn't been very consistent.
Just poorly placed balls. It wasn't bad decisions. It's just he couldn't get the ball to his receiver.
Right. Moving on, the Colts will make the wild card. This was written before this week, so I'm going to say the Colts will not make the wild card. I think they'll go 7-10 is what I think they'll go, and I think the Eagles are really going to enjoy that first round pick.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
To kind of move on from that, them boys are the best team in the NFL. What do you think? This
is actually my take. I think they have a strong case for it. I don't think they are. I think the Packers are probably better. I think the Bills are probably better, but
they're right there though.
That's where my list ends.
Yeah.
It's a shame.
In my opinion, they are only as good as their defense is going to allow them to be. We both know, any of you listeners know, that the Cowboys offense can run with anybody in the league. Absolutely. We saw it in week 1 against the Buccaneers. Like I said earlier, you could argue that they should have won that game. Just a few missed field goals really cost them. But yeah, they're legit. Said it once, we'll say it again. Cowboys are a good NFL team.
Yep. This hurts me, being a Cowboys hater. But I am going to ask, Do you think this team is better than the 13-3 team from a few years back?
I think yes. And here's why. They have similar players from then. I mean, they didn't have CeeDee Lamb at the time, but you're talking about the year Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott's rookie year, which I believe they were actually 12-4.
Oh, I thought they were 13-3. Okay, that doesn't matter though.
Yeah. Anyways, but that team was young, lots of young fire. I think this team this year is a more well-rounded team. Zeke, his rookie year, was probably better than Zeke this year.
Yeah, that's just how running backs are.
They just age over time, but
Yep. And I think this defense is better.
I would agree. I think that they could end up with a better record than 12-4.
I can
Maybe
see it. I don't know.
13-4 since they've extended the schedule by 1 week since then. But
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see him losing 3 more games. I think probably 2. I could see him going 14-3.
I could as well.
Yep.
All right, I'll let you take this next one. The Eagles don't suck yet.
We kind of already touched on this, but I think they're gonna suck at one point. I could be wrong. I honestly hope I'm wrong. I like Jalen Hurts. I like Nick Sirianni, but I just don't see it with the Eagles.
Yeah, I don't really see it either.
Really wish they'd use Miles Sanders, but they won't, and he's on IR now. So
Okay. With that little bit, I had time to look up the rest of the season for the Dallas Cowboys, and we'll kind of evaluate if they can go 13-4. So next week they got the Broncos, and then the Falcons, and then the Chiefs, the Raiders, followed by the Saints, the football team, the Giants, the football team again, and then rounding the season out with the Cardinals and the Eagles.
gotta love that NFC East.
Yeah, I think that definitely favors them. Some interesting games on that schedule would be the Cowboys and the Chiefs on November 21st. That should be an interesting game. We'll really see how good that defense is then. The Cowboys and the Cardinals also will be a very interesting game.
Yep, I'm definitely watching that one.
Yep. I hope that one's on prime time.
Okay, moving on. The Raiders can maintain success. I'll let you take this one.
This is tough because I feel like once they got rid of John Gruden, they improved, which you see this with a lot of teams when they lose their head coach. They go on like a little bit of a winning streak. I can't give you specific examples, but I'm sure if you look it up, you will find them.
I know what you're talking about.
I think no. If you really want my honest opinion, I think no. I mean, some news coming out today. They're going to be without Henry Ruggs for a while. He was intoxicated driving a car in Las Vegas and wrecked into somebody and took their life. Tragic situation, and we probably won't be seeing Henry Ruggs for a long time, maybe the rest of his career.
Yep. Really unfortunate there. I'm not going to get into the specifics of that, but yeah, the Raiders are good right now. It'll be interesting to see how losing their big play threat really affects them. Yeah, I'm not going to claim to know a ton about the Raiders, but judging off recent history, I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I would, like I said before, I'd have to agree with you on that one. All right. So I guess to kind of wrap up the pod here, we're going to do our matchups for the upcoming week in the NFL.
All right.
Kind of like what Max said earlier, we have the Indianapolis Colts versus the New York Jets on Thursday night, my bad. And then you have the Falcons at the Saints. I think the Saints kind of take care of business on that game. What do you think?
Falcons, Saints, yeah.
Moving on, the Cowboys facing Denver at AT&T Stadium. I'd like to think the Cowboys kind of win this game with ease.
Yeah, I could see Denver giving them a little bit of problems if they maintain the running game. Because when you maintain the running game, you keep the ball out of the other team's hands. That's what you're going to have to do with the Cowboys, high-powered attack.
Yeah, also opens up the playbook as well for some play-action passes.
Absolutely.
And then we got the New England Patriots at Carolina. I think this will be a really good game, if you ask me. But
two average teams, I would say.
yep,
I think it's going to come down to coaching.
I agree, and I think the Patriots got better coaching, so I'm taking them in that game. Moving on, we have the Vikings at Baltimore.
I would expect the Ravens to play really well this game. I think they'll probably beat the Vikings, I would guess, by multiple scores.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that one. I just don't know where the Vikings are going to go from here. I think this is an important game for both teams, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings could kind of resurrect their season.
Yeah, for sure.
I doubt it, though.
A Ravens loss to this Vikings team would really raise some question marks for me, but we'll move on from that. The Browns versus the Bengals at Cincinnati.
This, I know it's early in the season. It's week 9. This could be for division.
It really could. I think this kind of...
For the Bengals, I don't think the Browns are going to win the division.
No, me neither.
But I think the Bengals kind of have to win this game, especially bouncing back from the Jets loss. That's just tough.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, that was a Jets game where they didn't play great, but, I mean, they were in the game the whole time. So I think the Bengals bounce back from that Jets loss and beat the Browns.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, the next game we have the Buffalo Bills at Jacksonville, which we both know that the Buffalo Bills are better than the Jacksonville Jaguars. But one point that I would like to bring up is the Manning curse. I saw this on Twitter today. Every single player that has been on the Peyton and Eli Manning Monday cast has lost the next week. I mean, just an example is Tom Brady was on there in the Seahawks game, and then he goes and loses to the Saints.
I'm rooting for it to happen.
And Josh Allen was on the Monday night Peyton and Eli cast. And, I mean, it could happen.
Hey, the Mannings, you never know with them.
No, never know. Next game is the Houston Texans at the Miami Dolphins. This might be the most pathetic game of the whole year.
I do not care. Next.
No, yeah. Moving on. The Raiders at the Giants. What do you think?
I would, if the Raiders are going to fall apart, this is a lovely opportunity.
Yep. It's also a good opportunity for the New York Giants to get a win against I would say at this point in time, a quality football team.
Yeah, right now.
Yep. And then we have the Los Angeles Chargers at the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this is kind of similar to the Raiders-Giants game, that if Philadelphia gets a win against the Chargers, then that says a lot about them.
I don't think they will. I think the Chargers bounce back pretty strong and beat them by multiple scores.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But you never really know with that defense. I mean, the Eagles' defense isn't awful, especially their front seven.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're all right.
Now, the Chargers are kind of in a similar situation as the Ravens, in my opinion, that this week means a lot for them, and it's important they go in there and get a win.
Yep, big game.
All right, another big game, the Packers at Kansas City.
If the Chiefs are going to make something of this season, they're going to have to beat a good team eventually. This would be a good opportunity. The Packers are probably feeling pretty good about themselves, I'd imagine. I don't think the Chiefs have the firepower to do it. Devontae Adams should be back. It's going to be really tough for the Chiefs to pull off with the Packers playing the way they are. But the Packers have been known to let down sometimes. So this could, I don't know. I would pick the Packers, but I don't know.
You heard it here first. You can quote me on this. Devontae Adams is going to go for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Chiefs.
I hope so. I have him in fantasy.
I think it's going to happen against that Chiefs secondary. We already talked about how bad they are, but and then we got the Arizona Cardinals at the Niners. This game is important for the Niners. They got a win last week, maybe keep it rolling this week. I really don't see it happening, though, against Arizona. They're going to bounce back from that game against Green Bay.
Yeah, especially getting that the mini bye there, playing on Thursday night. They're going to be well rested. They'll be ready to go.
Yep. Honestly, my pick for game of the week we got next on primetime Sunday night, the Titans at the Rams.
Boy, that's a good game.
Yep, I
Yeah, it
think
doesn't
this
get much better than that.
this game is going to say a lot about both teams. I mean, we know how good the
Very,
Rams are.
very excited to see the Titans without Derrick Henry.
Yep,
I cannot wait to see what Tannehill does with that team. And the Rams have a chance to beat a good football team here, so they have another chance to prove themselves.
yep. I want to see AJ Brown in Jalen Ramsey's career.
I would like to see Jalen Ramsey end AJ Brown's career.
All right. On Monday, wrapping up week 9, you got the Chicago Bears at the Pittsburgh Steelers. I will not be watching that game.
I will also not be watching that game, but my money is on the Steelers.
I think the
The
Steelers,
Steelers
too,
have a chance to go 5-4.
yeah, they really could. I mean, this is a Bears team that is not great. I mean, that defense now is a far cry of what they were from in 2018, and that
Yep.
offense just struggles, which we saw a better week from them last week, but I really think the Steelers take care of them. All right. Well,
I'm pretty sure that wraps up most of what we've got to talk about. Unless you have anything.
no, I think I'm good. I'd just like to thank everybody for listening, and until next time, peace.
Yep. I'm gonna give a Twitter shout out real quick. You can follow us on Twitter at capital I, capital T, capital L, lowercase pod. We'd really appreciate the follow. We're gonna post pretty much all of our content there. You can also find us on TikTok at, let me find it,
I think it's inside the lines 0, if I'm correct.
at inside the lines, no spaces, no caps.
Okay. Yep. And then
All
for
right.
our personal Twitters, you can follow me at real__Gabe. And then you can follow Max at Brigaman, capital FB, Brigaman, BRIGGEMAN.
Yep. I believe that's all we got. Thanks for listening.
All right.